What's up, guys? Marko from the Vaticans here on this beautiful Saturday morning in Los Angeles. The sun is blasting. As you can tell, I can't even speak. I'm only my first cup of coffee into it, but today you're gonna get your money's worth. We're gonna review this incredible new 2021 Axis, and we're gonna take it through the ringer. I'm incredibly excited about this guitar. It's out for delivery as we speak, and we're gonna go all in on this one. We're gonna review it, compare it, do a price and value comparison, and then today you're gonna get a big treat. We're actually gonna shred on it. So many people reached out and be like, hey man, on your next review, you gotta freaking, give us some speed, like you do in your songs. And today, you know what? We're gonna do just that. Thank you so much for all your wonderful comments and tuning in and feedback and everything. And please make sure you're subscribed. But let's check out this thing. And should be here in an hour or two. It's on the FedEx truck supposedly. But man, I'm so incredibly excited about the specs of this guitar. Let's see if it lives up to it. All right, let's see what we actually have here on the new Axis line. It was just announced for Summer NAMM. And we'll go back one thing here. Oh, you know what? Let's click on guitars. The specs on this are really, really incredible. I'm really excited. Any day now they should release my demos from the Ernie Ball videos that I demoed. But the Axis, funny enough, somewhere towards the bottom here. And as you can tell, we have the Super Sport. I don't care much for the Super Sport. Nothing wrong with it. This is the one I always loved. And you can tell the specs are absolutely incredible, at least on paper. We now have quilt or tiger top, stainless steel frets, an absolutely drop-dead gorgeous baked flamed maple board, basswood body on maple, again, either quilted or striped. Opinions vary. I noticed that in my groups when I posted it. Some people miss the color matched headstock. I personally love that it isn't. And the colors we have are Yucatan blue, either in quilt or in flame, and roasted amber quilt, which funny enough doesn't have a binding. So as you can tell, a lot of colors discontinued for whatever reason. A lot of people miss the amber, kind of like that EVH color. I'm personally happy it's gone, but of course that's subjective. But this Yucatan blue is just absolutely drop dead gorgeous. The Marshall pickups, which are very similar to the EVH model. Listen, this is basically the EVH, a modern version of the EVH guitar, but let's see if it lives up to it. Now, if you look at Sweetwater, the price is $3,200 for the quilt. The Tiger one is $200 cheaper, and the Super Sport is basically the same price with a $50 offset. Now, this is the guitar that we're getting today. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous. Probably one of the nicest quilt tops I've ever seen. And guys, just Ernie Ball is now on a whole different level with their selection. I think they are now legitimately what PRS wishes they could be. And don't worry, I know that's going to sound offensive to some people, but guess what? That's what we're going to compare it to. But the wood selection of this is absolutely stunning. Look at that. And I'm incredibly excited to see when the guitar arrives in an hour or two, if it lives up to the expectation. Look at this. And the funny thing is, when I saw these specs, look at that. Again, it just made me think of my Custom 24. And I have incredibly mixed feelings about Paul Reed Smith today versus the Paul Reed Smith of pre-2001. And guess what? We're going to compare this guitar value-wise to those high-end guitars, because this is just an incredibly well-spec'd guitar. Look at that. Very similar to my JP15. Actually, I'm going to bring that out too for a little comparison. So let's wait for the FedEx truck to arrive. It is literally 20 minutes after I just filmed the other segment, and of course the cats are going crazy because they want to get into the box. If you have cats, look at this beautiful little thing. Archie, say hi. If you watch my reviews, they are pretty much in every single video. So they don't care about the guitar, they just want to get into the box. So let's open this sucker up. Of course, as always, I want to point out packing is very important, let alone on a $3,000 guitar. Double boxed, of course, exactly as you would expect. I always do these videos keeping in mind that some people, it could be their first guitar of this kind, and some of you are more experienced and own a lot of guitars. But, double boxing is a must on this kind of price range. Bubble wrap, as you would expect. And inside, of course, we have the famous Ernie ball case. And on to the next step. All right, guys, here we are. And as you know from all my videos, we love doing this in real time. I actually have my better half standing right besides me. Say hi, honey.
Hi, honey.
And we're not going to have her in frame. Like I said, we just woke up, and you know how ladies are before they have their Irish coffee. But we do want to get her reaction as well, because she's incredibly involved with the music and my guitars and everything and the look of it, and helps me choose, etc., etc. So here we go. Nothing unusual about the case, your typical Ernie Ball Music Man case, but let's open it for the first time. And here we... Don't let it drop.
It's going to slip.
It's not going to slip,
Yeah,
don't you worry. I got it.
Slipping.
It's already slipping. She's more worried about it slipping. Okay.
Wow.
What do you think?
I want to go swimming.
You want to go swim in it, okay? So that
You can dive right in.
you can dive right in.
Yeah.
Wow, that is...
Stunning.
Yeah, no, that is... my goodness, look at that.
It looks like candy. The neck.
Does. I feel like the
Like
video...
chocolate.
You're right. I feel like the video doesn't even do it justice. I'm trying to... Here you go. Now you can actually see the...
It's a really pretty shade.
The flame on it. It is really, really, really flamed. I'll stand it up and we'll go from there. But that, man, that is good stuff, huh? Let's take it out. So I just put it to the couch side, and before I even take it out, I mean, this looks like a laminate. It looks like on the lower end versions when they put laminate. And the fact that this is actually, I mean, I just cannot get over the book matching. And listen, guys, you know me, I'm a practical guitar player. I mean, I do music basically indirectly for a living with my band, studio, you know, the Vaticans, you name it. But this is just absolutely incredible. Here's the trem. We're going to put that in. Let's see. Excuse me while I switch hands. Again, we want to do it in real time. Look, this sucker's pretty tight. There you go. And that's so cool about these cases. You have this cutout, so you can actually close it and travel with the trem arm. That's what that is. And your typical, you know, kind of really nothing in there that's of any importance. We'll put that away. But I just want to show you the flame on this neck, and now you can really see it. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. Stainless steel frets on this one. The DiMarzio pickups, which are basically a slightly underground version of the EBH Ernie Ball. I think I'm seeing my first mod already. I genuinely believe, and I actually happen to have black knobs, that this might look better with a black knob right there. I love the forward and back switching on it. Looks good. Let's flip it over. It is... Oh my goodness, look, just, let me zoom in for you here. Look at that. Baked, flamed neck. It is absolutely, and I love that they don't have kind of like that cutoff, you know, finish that they do on the neck like they did before. This is all satin finished throughout, and just, this is ridiculous. Look at that neck. That is absolutely insane. And we got the barcode and et cetera, et cetera. So let's take her out. Trying to give you different angles of the guitar. And again, I'm doing this also in mind if case, like I said, you never owned an Axis and you want to kind of gauge what the 2021s are all about. But the fretwork looks absolutely flawless. And you can just tell the rounding is just absolutely perfect. I modify a lot of my guitars. I'm good with kind of building and luthier stuff. So not a pro, but good enough to, obviously after 30 years of playing, to know what it takes for a good guitar. Now keep in mind, this is a 10-inch radius. I might actually mod this to a 12 to 16. We'll see how that goes. but the craftsmanship and the wood selection is absolutely incredible. I'm telling you right now, the video doesn't even do it justice. I love the satin finish on this. It feels so ridiculously smooth, and just look at that flame. I mean, there are guitar makers out there, and we'll get to that, where you would have to spend $5,000 to get a guitar like this. And you have that nice, beautiful contour here that you don't have on the EVH models. And I keep bringing up EVH because remember, this is pretty much the EVH that they, you know, after Eddie left, Ernie Ball, they kept this model. They called it the Axis. They moved, of course, as you know, the pickup switch from here to there, and they cut out the contour. It's pretty much the same. Otherwise, it is literally, you know, what they consider a little bit bigger, better, faster. This is not to take away from the EVH model. You know, I own them, I love them. But this is really for the modern working guitar player. And yeah, just absolutely incredible. Just the wood choices are stunning. The craftsmanship looks absolutely awesome. Let's compare it real quick. We're not going to waste any time and jump right into our first comparison. And, you know, for me personally, the reason why I decided to go with this is because I'm actually selling the JP15. I just couldn't bond with it. I did not buy this because it's a Petrucci guitar. I bought it because I think it's just a great guitar and nicely spec'd. However, it turns out that the neck on this is just way too thin for me. And that says a lot because trust me, I like me an Ibanez Wizard neck, but this is just even something about this guitar I can't bond with. And if you look, just the wood selection is very, very similar. Actually, the flame on the Axis is even more pronounced. This one has a nice flame. They're both just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I already know how this is going to sound. You know my opinion on the non-recessed plate. I think this is one of the ugliest guitars from the back. There's just nothing pretty about this whatsoever. Not that it matters, but I mean, you know, at some point you care about aesthetics too. Here it's way less pronounced. It doesn't bother me as much here, even though I feel like if this was recessed, it would be just a cherry on top. But there's just the way this kind of, yeah, it's just not pretty. And again, you know, that's of course not that it matters. You have locking tuners here, regular shutters there. This, however, you know, has a 17-inch radius. It's a gorgeous guitar. I just have a hard time bonding with it. It just didn't add anything to my tool bag that I didn't already have, whereas I feel like the Axis does. And as you guys know, I just did that BFR that I tweaked, and we'll compare to that as well, because it'll be real interesting to see and do an A-B on the basswood maple with the DiMarzio pickups versus the BFR that I just modified for my other video. But just, you know, the wood selection on both guitars, stunning. This slightly, I think, has even a nicer neck. It's just so flamey, so beautiful. Both gorgeous. But again, the very reason I got this is to kind of replace that because I just couldn't bond with the 15. And we actually have our first mod. I just took this off. I had a black one laying around. And yeah, I think that black knob actually looks better. No, just again, look at the wood selection of this. It is absolutely, even the seam here is perfect. And again, I point these things out too, guys. Remember, when you spend this kind of money on a guitar, we'll get to the sound portion, but there should be absolutely nothing but pure perfection here with respect to craftsmanship, quality control, and Ernie Ball, you know, I mean, there's very little room for error because of the expectations, the price point, and but just absolutely, so far it looks good. I love the flex. None of these woods are picked by accident. You can tell well, again, I keep coming back to the word expectations of this guitar. And whether you get, you know, striped or quilt, doesn't matter. But the book matching is just absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, the best part, guys, is this makes me want to play. That's what this is all about. You know, you buy a beautiful guitar, nice guitar, but at the end of the day, It makes you want to play. This inspires me. I'm incredibly excited to do this review, but even more excited once it's uploaded to just put 20, 30 hours on this thing. And again, just showing you the wood selection. I'm such an incredible fan of wood and craftsmanship. Just look at this flame and the cross pattern. This is just absolutely drop dead gorgeous. All right, let me tell you kind of what we're going to do. The first thing I want to make sure is that you understand the amp settings we're using, because that's not by accident. We're going to use something very neutral on the 5150, which I think is the perfect amp to use today to expose those pickups. The first thing we're going to do is just a beautiful little sound check with open chord voicings on this axis to see how we like it. As always, I'll record it on Pro Tools with no effects, no post effects on it whatsoever. Okay, be aware when you sometimes watch these reviews, people put a lot of post-production on it and freaking every guitar sounds great. What we want to do is expose those pickups, but I do want to give the Axis a standalone chance to just kind of, for you to get and for me for that matter, I haven't plugged it in yet. And then I'm going to pick some more guitars off the wall in that price range and maybe pick a few guitars that are more expensive than this and see if they, you know, are that much better with respect to wood choices and sound. There is, you know, while guitars are very subjective, there's also a way to be quite objective about it too. But let's check out the amp setting first. We have an awesome setup here, the all-time great combo Royer 121 with the 57. We're gonna go to the 50 watt head, all we need today. And we're gonna do a little sound check on the green setting, blue. We'll go real quick to red. Obviously, as you know, the red channel on this is Bloody Murder. We're gonna use that maybe mostly for the backing track. But right now, because, you know, it just masks the pickup too much and anything kind of starts sounding a certain way when you put that much gain on it. But what we're gonna do is, you can see we have the lows slightly over the middle on one, the mids slightly up to expose any mid-range on the pickups if they're overbearing, and then the highs at 2 o'clock. You know, with that said, the presence is actually pretty low because, you know, that's one thing that the original EBH had a problem with, is kind of overtones, anything above that 6 to 7K range, and it was quite overbearing. So we'll stick with that. Have a decent gain setting, about almost 3/4 up on the blue channel and 10 AM on the clean channel, so we get kind of like that nice Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of sound of it. Let's plug her in. Quick insert video, my apologies, I totally forgot to show you the back. I know a lot of you guys care, and obviously I do too, about the craftsmanship of the electronics and the wiring. Just a quick insert video, my apologies. Looks very clean, just like you would expect. The beautiful brass block. Here's your adjuster, and you have another adjuster on the side for the tremolo arm, depending how stiff you want it. And your wiring looks beautiful. I'm not going to bore you with this. If you go and look at my BFR review where I changed the pickups, this was an incredible headache, because this needed to be replaced with a traditional 3-switch toggle, as Ernie Ball uses a proprietary board here, and looks like they're using a full-size pod on this, because on the BFR it's a small size. So, but looks very clean, beautiful job, everything as it should be. I also like how they coated on the inside here, as a lot of players leave that kind of off. Again, the plates aren't recessed, but anyway, just in the interest of being thorough, I wanted to point this out real quick. Very, very beautiful and clean job. It is now the next day, boys and girls, and I just listened to the sound samples from yesterday. And this guitar, I have to say, is starting to really become one of my more favorite guitars that I've played in the last months, maybe even a year or two or so. But my goodness, sorry, I can't speak. I just can't get over. Wow. We're just going to talk a little bit about value and then go into just a brutal shred showdown. For you who don't remember, this is the BFR that I had refretted to put dots in, and I put Wolfgang USA pickups in it because I thought that these DiMarzios, were slightly a little bit dated. Let me tell you something. I just listened to the sound sample from yesterday, and this guitar sounds absolutely incredible. And mind you, there's no post-production on any of this. This was straight from the 5150 with a little delay and reverb. There's no post-productions in Pro Tools that I did like I would do on one of my songs. So a lot of times when you hear these guitars played in a store, there's a lot of post-productions. Trust me, I didn't do anything. And I just have to say, listening to it now 10 hours later after I slept on it, it just sounds incredible. I still believe these pickups are maybe, stuck a little bit in the 90s or 80s even, but if you mask it and do some post-production, if you were to use those clean sounds and use a little bit of chorusing, et cetera, you can get any sound you want out of this guitar. I can tell you it feels absolutely incredible. Look at this flame. I mean, this of course is Bird's Eye. This was a BFR, and I, what's funny? I'm not even really that big of an Axis fan. I just now more than ever go by specs and see how those specs translate from paper onto usability to add it to my tool bag. And somehow, without ever planning on it, I ended up with two Axises and one I modified. And this is what was so interesting and why we'll do a shootout between these two and an Ernie Ball EVH for the shred song in the end, is because, this definitely sounds a little bit more modern. Look, the Wolfgang pickups are just some of the best pickups ever made. And I say this neutrally. And I knew how they would sound over basswood with maple. And now I have a contrast to that. So it'll be interesting to see how it translates into high gain. But, guys, if we're going to be honest, we just have to admit that Ernie Ball is just starting to separate itself now on a whole different level. And I want to talk about value real quick because honestly, I cannot think of another guitar that's going to give you this kind of bang for the buck. I do wish this had a little bit of a different radius. This is a 10-inch radius. Don't be surprised if down the road you see me refret this and redo it, 12 to 16 and pleck it, or maybe just do a 14 across. But Ernie Ball is just now on a whole different level with their Axises. I have to tell you, you know me, I'm a skeptic. I'm not that easy to impress. And I'm having an incredibly hard time right now thinking of another $3,000 guitar that will give you this kind of bang for the buck with respect to specs and wood selection. This thing is literally looks and feels like a Rolls Royce, but plays like a Ferrari. And it is just, talk is cheap. Let's compare. Why not just start with the direct competitor, the Wolfgang Stealth USA, which is really a modern version of this. Well, I take that back, which is just a different version now of this. There's nothing not modern about the Axis. I always keep thinking back to the EBH, which kind of, the Axis is, but bigger, better, faster. So this guitar is $31.99. So let's say you have a good relationship, you can get it out the door for $3,000, for argument's sake. This one is $3,700 now, $36.99. So if you get lucky, you'll get it for maybe $37 out the door without tax. So you have a $500, $600, $700 difference here, depending on where and how you get it. The specs, well, you have flamed baked maple here. You have a beautiful ebony. Both have stainless steel. Looks subjective. I mean, obviously this is insanity, but this has this really cool retro kind of, you know, stealth black look. You have binding. Here you have a triple ply, which is really, really gorgeous. Stainless steel. Now, this is a flat, sorry, I should say, asymmetrical neck here with a compound radius 12 to 16. Here it's just a flat spec neck and a 10-inch across the board. So that's a little bit subjective and maybe to taste, but for argument's sake, let's say that the 12 to 16 is a little bit more modern. It just, you know, it is a little bit, I think, a needed spec if you're a modern day shredder, if you will. You know, 12 to 16 is definitely, has its advantages over just a flat 10, you know. But, you know, there you go. And you're going to start asking yourself now, well, outside of that, you know, is this guitar really worth $700 more or 500 or 600? Or, you know, in my opinion, this guitar is so different, even though they're very similar. But it's kind of like a distinction without a difference. So you're going to pay a little bit more for the name here. But if you look at the wood selection, I mean, the Stealth just can't beat it, can it? I mean, look, words are cheap. But that's just the start. Let's see how it flares to more expensive guitars. This is an interesting one because you are within the same family of brand and manufacturer. This guitar being $34.99 and this one $31.99. So now you have a $300 difference, but you really have completely two different spec guitars. They both have baked maple, although this wood selection is just ludicrous and absolutely, look at this. When I was playing this earlier, let me tell you something. When you play this, I had a hard time playing it yesterday. There you go. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I got confused where the dots are. Look how flamed this is. This is just ridiculous. And I'm telling you, as a fan of just wood selection, which I've been intrigued by for 20 years, you don't need to love the brand, whatever. You can hate it. I've quote unquote hated guitars, but still could appreciate the wood selection. This one is pale in comparison. The neck, the headstock is okay, but if you look at the, it's kind of pale, and the top is incredible. And this is an Okumi with a Honduran top, and again, I think incredibly ugly on the back. We covered that. Look at this. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And then here, yeah, you're good. You know, this is nice. So both are bolt on, okay? But now, value-wise, maybe a little bit harder to compare because they are completely two different spec guitars. You have a 17-inch across here, a little bit of a dated look body, if you will. This to me just looks so much sexier. I don't know why, but of course that's subjective. Rainmaker Dreamcatcher pickups, which are very good. And you're here with the custom DiMarzios, which are very similar to the EVH. If they tweak them very, very little. Of course, you have the boost and all. This is kind of like an electronic board in the back there. 24 frets, 23. So value-wise, you know what? Now it gets a little bit tougher. At this point, you're going to have to start asking yourself, what kind of specs do you want? This top is obviously insanely beautiful. I couldn't personally bond with this neck. I love super thin necks. I have a lot of guitars for different purposes. But this neck, just something about it is almost thin in a not good way to me. And you know, also having a Majesty, it just sits better. Even though I would prefer this body. So all right, let's go to a much more expensive guitar. Let's go to a guitar that costs $2,000 more. Well, I'm going to give you a heads up right now. You are probably not going to enjoy this very much if you're a Paul Reed Smith fan. And I'm a Paul Reed Smith fan, at least anything pre-2001. But, you know, let's spend a moment on this. And again, you can skip to the next segment, but I do want to... I'm not going to get into the whole story how much I love Paul Reed Smith as a kid, you know. The one thing you should know before you start leaving comments, I've had and owned a total of 15 or 16 Paul Reed Smith models, half of them being pre-2001 and the other half post. And this is the last time I tried a modern one because I think at this point today, this is just an incredibly overpriced generic guitar that just doesn't have anything close to the charm and character that they used to have. I changed black rings because I thought it looked a little bit better than the cream. This is a Wood Library $5,000 guitar. Wood Library. This is white thin neck. It's a 10-inch radius as well. They both share the same radius. I don't know what it is about modern PRSs. Well, I do know what it is. It's very overpriced. It is a CNC machine. And if you know the old PRSs, this just doesn't do it anymore. And I just don't know where they get the $4,700 price tag. So let's compare specs. We have a rosewood neck here. It's basically the same as Gibson's, maple and mahogany, basswood on maple. So right off the bat, yeah, we can say the necks are subjective, although this is obviously way more exclusive. I mean, make absolutely no mistake. And I'm going somewhere with this, and I'll ask you a question in a minute or two. This is a baked maple, which is just absolutely insane. This is a beautiful rosewood neck. Now, in all fairness, this guitar, of course, is glued. Set neck, this is bolt, okay? Does that justify a $2,000 difference? I'm not sure. I don't know. I can tell you right off the bat. Now, if I took my 94 PRS Custom 24, then maybe the story would be different, but we wouldn't compare that to the modern day Axis. If I took a 94 Custom 24, I would compare it to the Ernie Ball EVH, not the Axis. These pickups are incredibly confused what they're supposed to be. And for that matter, so is the whole guitar. These are not trying to be anything they're not. If you don't like them, change them. But they are meant to rock, and they are wound to rock. This is like anything else on a Custom 24, trying to be the best between a Les Paul and a Strat. And they're good pickups, but they're not great whatsoever. This is utterly useless for what's considered a modern day, or Paul tries to sell you as a modern day guitar for a modern day player. First and foremost, you can't really do dive bombs. You can't go really up. The trem is really completely useless on these. Here you have dime bomb only, but you're locked in and it stays in tune 100 times better than this ever will. The top on this is a 10 top and it's flamed, which is nice. This, I don't think we need to be objective about or subjective about this. We can objectively say that this top is obviously smokes this one. And this is not a bad top. There's nothing wrong with this top, but this is obviously next level. This is a one-piece neck. This one has ears because when it's to Paul's advantage, of course, then it doesn't make a difference to the sound. And if PRS was smart, it would have two versions of this. They would have the traditional and then a modern day where they would maybe do something with a flatter scale or something that actually makes sense for a modern player. Stainless steel frets, non-stainless steel frets. So let's talk about value. And I'm going to ask you this. Mind you, this is $5,000. This with tax, this is $33-ish with tax. So we have a $1,700 difference. Now I want you to look at this and then look at that. Forget the body. I'm just talking neck selection. All right? And then look at this wood. Forget the brand. Doesn't matter what the brand is. And then look at this nicely flamed. So I want you to ask yourself now. Call Paul Reed Smith. Call Paul Reed Smith and tell them, show them a picture of this and tell them you want a top like that with a baked maple, stainless steel. And you know what they're going to tell you? They're going to tell you what they told me. For that, you need to go private stock, and you're going to be looking at probably $9,700. You don't have to believe me. Don't believe me. Make the call. Call Sweetwater and tell them you would like a Custom 24 spec like that with a quilt this insane in blue that Paul Reed Smith makes very similar blue, okay? Tell them you want a quilt like that. You want a baked maple. And you want stainless steel frets. And get your quote. My quote was $9,700 to get a Paul Reed Smith to spec that in the same way. And here is a regular modern generic custom 24 versus an Ernie ball. So, you know, this might sound like I'm bashing Paul Reed Smith, and you know what? I am. Because the modern Paul Reed Smith is just doesn't have the value anymore. I just cannot tell anybody watching this that somehow you'll be better off and you will get a better guitar spending $5,000 when the reality is that you get a much better spec and guitar for $2,000 less, but that actually hasn't or doesn't have a crisis in identity. This guitar knows exactly why it exists. Whereas this one is trying to please everybody at the cost of doing something better that a Les Paul and a Fender does. I can tell you that for me personally, it's not even close. This is 100 times more value than, well, it's $1,700 more value. And I think if you want a modern player, this destroys this $5,000 guitar. All right, we are about to reach the finish line with this incredible guitar. I'll shred through a song and then give you some closing thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me tell you what we're gonna do. A lot of you have asked for some shred. And you know what? We're gonna take this sax and we're gonna, you know, the whole point of this is to give it some gain. And what have we not used today, or yesterday I should say, it's been 2 long days. As you can tell, it's evening time. We're gonna go on the red channel. We're gonna go on gain, okay? No post-production. I might use a little bit of a compressor just, you know, on Pro Tools, but that's about it. Because I wanna see how those pickups hold up when we put them under heavy distress. And what better song, a song I haven't played in years, few years now. We're gonna do Far Beyond the Sun, Yngwie, okay? You know, when you see Yngwie, he doesn't even play that song anymore, anything close to what it was like on the record. I'm actually going to try to stick somewhat close to kind of what the actual melody was, but forgive me if there's a, you know, 1 or 2 wrong notes in there, but I can use the practice for sure, you know, and what better excuse than you know, to tear it up a little bit and go some nonsense speed, you know, not without feeling. I said nonsense shred, you know, which we love. It's a must. I'm going to run through it, you know, 4 times. I'll do the close. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run through the song 4 times, 2 times close up and 2 times on the wide shot. So you can kind of see, you know, how the guitar sits, how it feels. You know, it's nighttime. I'll probably do the 2 close-ups right now. And then when I wake up, the 2 wide shots. And then, yeah, we're just gonna, you know, go a hardcore shred and speed on this. And, what better song than the grand master daddy of them all, Far Beyond the Sun. What an incredible instrument. I'll give you some closing thoughts in a few moments. let me spend a half an hour and see if I even remember this damn song, okay? Wish me luck. Yep. You hear it in the background while it's rendering. This is what it looks like when you play Malmsteen like 6, 7, 8 times in a row. Yep. This means you did something right. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. We're at the finish line. Just wanted to give you some closing thoughts. I'm incredibly excited to get your comments and feedback on this. Look, what can I say? It's an incredible guitar. What I love about this guitar is that it's not confused what it is. I pointed out guitars that I own, such as the modern day PRS, etc., where I think some of those guitars, well, besides being a little overpriced, might have a identity crisis, you know. You know what else I love about this? I saw a lot of comments when these came out a few days ago that people are like disappointed that the Eddie colors were discontinued. You know, the red and the gold and the amber. You know, I'm happy they finally discontinued those colors, because this is not an EVH, guys. It's an Axis, and you know, I think you guys keep forgetting, a lot of you, that it's 30 years later. And not only is it 30 years later, but that relationship, that marriage didn't end, you know, on best of terms. So I was never really a fan of them. You know, I had the opposite feeling about it. I was like, well, why do you guys keep those colors around? I get it. Look, the gold amber is the all-time, you know, childhood sentimental guitar, you know. And I was thinking about actually taking the EVH out and doing a little shootout, but you know, I'm going to do a separate video on the EVH that I have that was owned by Eddie, because it's not fair to compare those two guitars. Look, this is a better guitar. It doesn't matter whether you agree or I agree or disagree. This is a more modern guitar. It's a newer guitar. It has better woods. It has stainless steel fret. The rounding is better. I played a lot of Axis now. I never thought I would end up with two, and the quality control is better. Guys, the EVH is like an old Ferrari. It's charming, it's great. It's, of course, older Ferraris are more valuable than some of the new ones, but there's no, you would hope that a 30, I mean, I hope you don't expect your Toyota Camry to be inferior 30 years later. I hope you expect it to be superior, right? I mean, this blows DVH out of the water. Now, does that mean that DVH is a lesser guitar? No, of course not. The old Ferrari Testarossa is so charming, and it's raising in value now. And of course, the new 458 is better, but you know, that's you know, you don't compare it like that, you know. And that's why I decided not to do a one-on-one comparison, because it's not fair to either guitar. But you know, I love that it has a cutout here. I love the new neck profile. Listen, this thing is absolutely incredible. It is an absolutely stunning instrument. You know, $3,000 is not cheap. I mean, neither is my friend's violin who plays at the symphony orchestra, which is $200,000. But the great thing is, this is a guitar you can actually use. You can play. You can ding up a high-end guitar for the working musician, you know, whereas, again, I keep coming back to certain other guitars that you're scared to put a ding in, you know. I'm scared to throw the Paul Reed Smith around because it's so thin, and, you know, you see 30-year-old Paul Reed Smiths that don't have a ding on them, whereas this is truly meant to be thrashed around. I'd never play Malmsteen on a Paul Reed Smith. I wouldn't even feel comfortable doing it. It's something about it just doesn't feel right, whereas this was just a joy to shred on, and I hope my playing wasn't too painful, but this is absolutely stunning. The specs are stunning, the feel is stunning, the looks are stunning, the sound is stunning. I think I'm really falling in love with this, and I might actually re-radius it, but and keep these pickups. I actually think they work for this guitar, especially on the blue channel. I thought it was really good. But I'm totally digging this. I can highly recommend it. The value to me is really what's stunning. You know, I think there's a lot of guitars out there where you would have to pay a much higher premium to get the same kind of quality guitar. So I don't know if I just got lucky and got a total winner, but I have a feeling that probably all of them are going to be, you know, really, really good like that. So I'd love to hear your feedback. I hope you enjoyed this. I I cannot say good enough things about this. I give this guitar, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. I'll tell you 2 reasons why it's not a 10 out of 10. When you have a guitar that's this good, you got to have 2 options. You got to have a traditional model, and you got to have one with a flatter radius. You know, not everybody wants to go buy a JP15 because the neck profile literally is so beautiful and amazing. I wish it had a 12 to 15 or a 12 to 16 or a 14, 15 across. You got to give the modern shredder options, okay? And the other reason is the pickups. They are slightly, I don't want to use the word dated, because at the same time, I also respect that those pickups are not confused what they are. I just wonder if you know, if maybe it will benefit from having, you know, with the flatter radius, maybe another pickup option that's a little bit less aggro. But that's very, very subjective, very subjective. Now, the radius, I think, is a more objective view, because I know from being in the scene that a lot of players 10 just is I mean, pushing it as how curvy they want to go. So you're going to have to ask yourself if you want to maybe offer this guitar at some point with a flatter radius for you guys that actually play and shred. I can tell you, I had I don't think my Far Beyond the Sun was that big of an insult to Yngwie, but I can tell you, it would have been a little bit easier to do that on maybe the Stealth, which is 12 to 16. I can definitely tell you it was up here. I was feeling it. You know, I showed you my fingers. So and I played to the song, I think, a total of 6 times. Twice I recorded it close and far, and the other 4 times just before the recording to see if I even remember it. But it was rough. So, but I tell you, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. What a fantastic guitar. I can highly recommend it. Ernie Ball, much respect. I mean, these guys are just on their own level now. And I am totally okay with the price point to value ratio. I can highly recommend it. So go rock it, stay safe out there. Interesting times, isn't it? I love you all. Go do your thing, and I'm incredibly excited for your comments. I hope you enjoyed this. I gave you timestamps. It's a long video, so I hope you jumped around and had some fun. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.